well. Just make sure that is all cool. Alrighty, let me start the recording and then we'll begin. Hello and welcome to Raising Your Money Vibration. This is module number 9, and today we are looking at clearing negative remnants, and I will explain what I mean about that as we get started, as we get into it. For those of you who are maybe jumping into this as your very first module, because I know sometimes people might want to do it on a modular basis depending on what resonates, I am Marilyn Devonish and I will be your host for the rest of this evening. So, very quick rundown in terms of the objectives of this program. It was really about exploring your relationship with money, expanding your soul awareness and consciousness. And we've got a piece in our final module that we're going to be looking at the soul and doing some what I think are very cool processes around that. Also started off in our very early days by looking at things like money genealogy, looking at old dichotomies, looking at old paradigms around money, releasing old limiting beliefs and negative emotions. And so we've had a mix of experiential exercises and clearing processes, and we're going to be doing some of that today as well. And of course, sharing some of those lovely success stories along the way. In terms of the series, what we've been kind of working up to. So we started with clearing money beliefs as a really nice recap for those of you who have been here for the duration as well. We did the cutting ancestral and karmic ties and looking at your genealogy and how that might affect your thoughts. And we've got a bit more to do on that today. We did some past life readings and looking at healing your money relationships. So we were using the past life deck to do those readings and then feeding that into some of the clearings that we did. Part 4 was clearing negative emotions, limiting beliefs, and starting to do some of that with a few of the processes. And we're probably going to do a bit more of the access consciousness today. We also did the meeting the ultimate best version of you, which was a fusion of timeline therapy and future life progression, going out to meet your future self and to bring back some thoughts and ideas and resources. We then had the Ho'oponopono, did some kind of cord cutting. We did the money oracle card readings. Last time round we did the soul of money karmic release, which was a guided process. And today it's the members choice session and also kind of clearing the old remnants. And then next time round we're going to look at the soul blueprint, look at doing some realignment processes, and also a bit of a guided meditation with the money DNA. So that's where we've been, and that's kind of the last segment of where we are going. I would say with regards to the members choice, for those of you who emailed me, we're going to work some of that in as well. And many people said, oh, actually the remnants bit sounds good. So we're of course doing that. So I've made a note of some of the things that you've said in the email. And what I'll probably do is kind of work those into the access consciousness statements to start before we get into some of the level 2 clearing statements, and aspects of that will also feature in what we're doing with the process for clearing the old remnants. So that's kind of what we've got coming up. In terms of what I mean by the negative remnants, it was something, and this is always the way it happens, which is very cool. But I was saying to a friend, one of the things I've observed is that with regards to people and success and moving forwards and making progress, oftentimes, if people have had what you call negative or bad experiences in the past, those experiences tend to almost hang over them like a cloud. And then if something else happens, which is similar, or maybe even a kind of the same sort of scenario, they automatically remember the past. That impacts the now, and then it impacts their ability to move into the future. And so it's almost like these fragments, these remnants that stop people go, oh, well, I did that before. Oh, well, this happened before. And then the old fears, the worries, the anxieties kind of rise up. And what I've noticed about this one, it's a little bit, well, it's quite a lot insidious, where people don't actually consciously notice it. But if you really dig a little bit deeper and say, oh, really? Well, what's the reason for that? Or what might be stopping you? Or what are you worried about? Oh, well, I had an experience before where, and then they'll tell you about an old experience of failure. And in this context, people might have lost money or lost a business or, made a mistake, gotten into a bad partnership, been taken advantage of. And so those things, even though they're over it, they're not thinking about it anymore, it's not part of their day-to-day life. The remnant of that is hanging around almost in the ether. And then when a similar-ish or something triggers that, and the trigger can be somebody looks similar to someone who did you over, or they have a similar name, or they work in a similar industry. Seriously, there are all sorts of things. And again, people don't often put two and two together, but when you dig a little bit deeper, that's what you will find is part of the problem. The memories and remnants from the past, almost in their most extreme cases, the best way I can describe it is it puts the fear of God into people, and they go, oh my God, well, what if that happens again? And then if we go back to, let's say, law of attraction 101, the thought of, oh my God, well, what if that happens again? And it's like hanging over you like the sword of Damocles. The law of attraction then kicks in as well, and people start almost kind of, even if they're not creating more of it, they notice more of it, and everything then seems worrying or suspicious, and it just can get completely out of hand, which is why I thought I'd want to, look at this one. Hello, Anne, you made it. Hi, Dave, lovely to have you here. That is wonderful. Hello, Pippa. So, that's kind of, what it's all about and kind of where we're going. So just to give you a sense of how and look, this is a bit like when I do a soul plan reading. They are about possibilities and potentiality. It doesn't mean everything happens to apply. It doesn't mean any of this has to apply. But this is just to give you an idea of some of the things that might be lurking. So one of the ways I describe it, it's like having a dark cloud, not always immediately over you, but somewhere in the ether. It is that memory of past disappointments. They'll color the present, they'll impact your goals and what you even think you are capable of, or capable of doing. It then can potentially bring on an inherent fear of taking action or even giving it a go. And so people do move into trying mode, because I'm sure you've heard, if you've been on any level of kind of personal development training, it sometimes comes up. People go, oh, I'll try, or even in the context of work. But when somebody says, oh, I'll try and get back to you, basically, you're not going to hear from them again. And so it basically can slip into that mode where people then can convince themselves they are doing and trying, but secretly, because of all this other stuff that's going on, they're never really getting out of kind of first gear. Now, the interesting thing about this as well, it can belong to you or it can be someone else's. So one of the questions I would be asking, let's say in a breakthrough coaching context, and for those of you who are going to be doing the transformation program, which is going to be starting a few weeks from now, we'll be totally getting into some of this stuff. But one of the questions I'm always often asking when people have, oh, well, I can't do this, or that's really difficult, or, well, I'm not sure if, I say, well, who does that belong to? Is it yours or someone else's? And there are times where people say, oh yeah, I've always believed that. And other times I go, oh my God, it's my mum used to say that, or my gran, or my nan, or my mum, or my sister, or my brother, or our culturally, things aren't acceptable. So you can start thinking, if you have any of those things lurking from the past, who do they belong to is always a good question to ask of yourself. And it is just that sort of a lingering feeling. And sometimes when I say it's insidious and intangible, there are times you just can't put your finger on it. You're just like, I don't know what's going on here. But there's just something. So that's kind of what we're looking out for with regards to this one. Another way that it can potentially kind of show up is what I call the money separation issues. And so this is kind of, you can be thinking about it also in terms of how much is your self-worth bound up with what is in your bank account. And so what I mean by that, if people have got money coming in or things are going well, they'll feel good about themselves. When they're on like a downward turn, they will feel bad about themselves. So they've created a direct correlation. And sometimes that's got nothing to do with them and everything to do with how the society and culture they grew up in perceives value. So that's also one to look at in terms of, if I do notice, I feel better. And of course, there's the obvious thing that comes with when you have got more money, you have less worries, you have less things to worry about. So that is a contributing factor. But I'm asking you to go beyond the day-to-day practicalities and really kind of ask, are there aspects of self, of your way of being, that are all tied up in that as well? Because sometimes those are throwbacks or things that you kind of buy into, which again, you haven't necessarily created that construct for yourself, but it exists somewhere in the kind of the ether of your thoughts. And that whole thing, the next one, if you're not doing well, do you deem yourself to be a failure? And I guess we don't have to look very far in the media to, I mean, sure, everybody can reel off someone who's hugely successful now, but they will have several hard luck stories to tell you, and even about, you know, losing things and then making it back, and losing things and not necessarily making it back in the same way, but they will gain really valuable life lessons from that. And it's a slightly different context, but I was watching one. Oprah does like these, they're not necessarily live, but she live streams it, so it goes out at 4 p.m. UK time on a Sunday, and it's the Super Soul Sunday series, and she interviewed a guy who works in palliative care and works with people who have had disabilities and etc. And he was a star athlete, you know, 6'3", American football star, you know, everything going for him. He was going to be the golden child. And one day he and two friends were doing what they always do, crossing a railway line. And on that particular occasion, he stepped onto it first. The line was live and basically, you know, seared both his legs off. So he's got artificial legs. And he was talking to Oprah about, you know, they got onto subjects of regrets and all the rest of it. And he actually said, you know what, I wouldn't have wanted this any other way, because I don't think I would have lived the richness of the life I've had if I'd had the everything, you know, mapped out and because of course it was devastating at the time, but it just kind of made me think about life as well. And I've always said it, you know, it's the one I call the joining the dots exercise, where we come back to, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. There are times where those worst of times can be the making of you in other ways. The trick is not to judge it in the moment. If you're in it and then trying to make it the best of times, leave that alone, because it often comes with hindsight. And it often comes when you are in what I call inquiry, where you kind of look at something you've achieved or where you've ended up and you go, how did I get here? I can hear that old song now. How did I get here? Letting the days go by. Sorry, I've got jukebox in my head. But you kind of go, how did I get here? And then as you start to unravel it back, you go, well, that happened because of that, and that happened because of that, and that happened. And normally, in amongst it all, there's some really kind of negative stuff, some really stuff that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. However, the fact is that, and in there's something called authentic leadership, and in authentic leadership terms, this is what you call the crucible moments, where you're a bit like the way that you would forge a diamond, where that comes from a sense of being under pressure. Yeah, great, now I've got Queen, but that comes from a sense of being under pressure. It's a very similar proposition to this one. And so the thing I would say is, even when you're in something, going through something, don't judge it too early, but do remember, let's say 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, 18 months down the line, 2 or 3 years down the line, cast your mind back and go, let me see that thing now. Because the more you can do that, the more you start to get a sense of a deeper perspective. And if any of you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, parental advisory, he swears a lot, if you do decide to go and look him up. But one of the things he talks about is playing the long game. And he's always saying that people judge things too early. They're in it for the now, they're in it for the success, and and that's not a problem. But he said the problem comes when people judge the negatives too early, because that can close the whole game down. So, you know, just be thinking about that. And one of the things I would always be asking of my breakthrough coaching clients is, if you were to make a new decision about your identity, what would that new decision be? Choose it. You don't have to try and make it real straight away, because there's some things you're going to live into and live up to, but at least start thinking about what you'd like your new decision about your identity to be. You know, it could be something as simple as the amount of money I have today and how I value myself as a person are different and separate. It could be as simple as that. But, you know, start with something and then give yourself the time and the space to live into it and live up to it. So that's what I'd say about just starting to kind of you get your head around some of those aspects and some of those things. So first of all, as we kind of get into it, what is your intention for today, for this session? Whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching this as a recording, do this as an exercise. So the question is, what would you like to most shift, clear, or change today? Hold the intention of that in mind. And also what I would say about that is, how will you know when you have achieved it? What will you be thinking? What would you be feeling, or how would you be feeling? What would you be doing differently? When you think about a particular situation or scenario, how will what you're thinking change? How will you be reacting and interreacting to things? And also start thinking about that as well. So if you want to put into the chat, and just to say for people who are maybe newer to the webinar, if you put it in the chat, it's public and open. So that's visible to everyone, and also visible when people watch the replay. If you put it in the Q&A, that comes just to me, so no one else can see it. I have left my email open as well, but I'd say because my focus is sort of there rather than over there, the Q&A is probably the best bet. But if you really want to, you can drop it into the email as well, and I'll cycle back and check those as well. But if you want to share what your intention is, and a sense of what the intention that you're holding of shifting and clearing, feel free to put that into the chat or into the Q&A. And while you're doing that, for people who might be jumping into this as a standalone, while you're kind of thinking about so those of you who've been here for a while or done the whole program, you don't need to listen to this bit now. Carry on writing or typing, whatever it is you're doing. And this is for newer people. Just a little bit of sort of a potted background about myself. I had a very traditional background, did a business studies degree, postgraduate marketing diploma. I was very quiet and very shy, terrified of public speaking. So just accidentally, long story, we're not going to go into it now, ended up on a personal development course. And the rest, as they say, is history. So that started off with becoming a practitioner and master practitioner of NLP, hypnosis and timeline therapy, and also being introduced to what is one of my now favorite modalities, HUNA, H-U-N-A. And then over the years, I've probably added 20 or so different modalities. So things like DNA theta healing, EFT, future life progression, soul plan reading, archetypal profiling, energetic NLP, past life regression, you name it, I've probably done it. Tarot reading, teach photo reading and accelerated learning. And also kind of in 2003, started working as a management consultant and corporate trainer, mainly working in central and local government. And that, I know it sounds a bit weird to say it, but that also dovetailed very nicely with the Prince 2 project management, which if you work in central or local government, that's a de facto standard for managing projects. And so my journey started in October 2000, and it has continued to this day. One of the things that I've also been doing since, 2003 now, is writing for newspapers and magazines. So it started off with things about emotional health and well-being, and has, gone into a number of different areas, some of them related more to the corporate side. So writing for, on things like diversity and finance and business and all the rest of it. And also some of the publications that you see here. So for it was 7 years, I wrote a monthly column for Spirit and Destiny magazine. It was one of the agony aunt pages, so people would write in with their problems and issues, and I would have to then solve those problems in 500 words or less, which was very interesting. I was also a media expert for Psychology's magazine, and I've written for a number of publications, things like the Times and the Metro and Top Sante and Aesthetic Medicine, a lot. So, speaking, writing, I went from hating them to absolutely loving them. And the first book I ever co-authored, it was called Stories of Transformation. And of course, I'm all about transformation. And that was with people like Tony Robbins, I have to change that to Dr. Paul Sheely now, the creator of photo reading, Chun-Yi Lin, Brian Tracy, and the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, where we've all shared stories of how we've changed and transformed our life in some way, shape or form. So that's how I come to be doing here. And for me, it's a mix of one-to-one coaching and therapy, running workshops, trainings, webinars, and public speaking, emceeing. So it's an eclectic mix, and I love it. In terms of this program, it's been practical, it's been experiential, we've had the self-dialogue. Now the journaling is really more around what you might choose to do outside of here, and we maybe have a little recap of that before we finish today. But the journaling also includes when I'm saying to you, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Da 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 da. Now some of you might have, you know, traditional pen and paper and you're writing that down in real time while I'm talking now. Some of you will be typing that in to the Q&A or the chat, and that is also a form of journaling. And when I'm asking questions of you, it does trigger a sense of self-dialogue as well, where you start then going inside to pose the question, you hear what comes up. So, and of course the kind of belief change and energy clearing. So it's a real mixture of at this point 19 years worth of stuff that I've read and I've studied and I've looked at, the coaching element, the questions that I'm asking of you. That's really to kind of get your brain firing and get your neurology going. This is where we now really want to start fitting these pieces together. And also there's the kind of what I call the magic elixir that runs through all of that, and the magic dust that gets thrown into it. So that's really kind of how we've structured things thus far. And as a reminder, I would definitely say that in terms of maximizing your results, give yourself permission to explore and just go with the flow. Set your purpose and intention. I'm going to come back and have a read through what you've shared on some of those in a few minutes. Definitely say keep an open mind, and we've mixed it up. We've done a number of different things. Now the thing that we've got coming up with the Access Consciousness, where I'm going to be using some of the statements that were created by Dr. Dane here and Gary Douglas, they're going to require you to have an open mind. So you're really going to need that one today. I would also say notice and focus on positive changes, because this is going to be one of the things that is pivotal as you move forwards from here on in. One of the reasons it's also really nice, and I would say important to clear the remnants, is it stops dragging your attention back to the past, and it allows you to go. And actually one of the statements I would say, even if I went, oh, we talked about remnants now, let's not bother to do a process, just this one thing that I'm about to share with you can be an absolute game changer. And you might want to write it down, and I'm not being dramatic, really you might want to write it down. And it is the words, because when I started saying this to myself, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Okay, fine. The words are, that was then, this is now. And it often, when I know when it's coming with clients, because I'll say something and they'll go, oh yes, but, because that's one of the big giveaways. And they'll go, you know, like I might suggest, oh yeah, I tried, yes, but I tried that. And I go, yeah, that was then, this is now. And the reason why it is so important is I would wager a bet that if you really looked at it, and let's say if you've been keeping a journal or a diary, you are probably very different to the person you were 12 months ago. You might even be very different to the person you were 6 months ago. Heck, you could be even very different to the person you were yesterday. However, even though we know that to be true, even if you don't keep a journal, you could probably just go, well, actually, yeah, now I think about it. Even though we know that to be true, we still allow the remnants of the past to come in and color the present and to some extent dictate the future. So I'm going to say your little mantra, if you choose to accept it, for the next 28 days minimum, but do it for longer if you can, is to say to yourself, every time you notice yourself harking back to the past, every time you notice yourself recreating something that you don't want, you stop for a moment and go, that was then, this is now. That was then, this is now. It's very, very simple. And it's really powerful if you take it on board. And also one of the things I say is kind of the sharing and interacting, because oftentimes when people, like they say something in the chat or the Q&A, other people go, oh my God, yeah. And I know we have it often if we're doing clearing stuff, somebody will say something, they go, oh, well, I didn't think of that, but I like that sound, and that applies to me too, but you just maybe hadn't articulated it, you hadn't thought about it. So that's a big part of it as well. And of course, going with the flow. So, and we also come with the regular disclaimer about this program in no way offers financial advice, is for entertainment purposes only, and the participants, that's you guys, are responsible for your own actions and decisions taken. So we just want to get that in. And also, one of the things I would definitely say, this is one of my favorite sayings that I learned when I went out to Hawaii to study Huna. This is that think not that all wisdom is in your school. So whether you're watching this as the only module, whether you've been through everything, I'm sharing with you the things that I've learned over the years that have really resonated with me, that have really helped me, and that have really helped my clients. And it's not the be all and end all. It's not the only way to do things. So if things resonate, that's great. Apply them. If you kind of go, oh, actually, I learned something else over there or over here, which resonates with me in a deeper way, that's fine too. So we're not saying this is the be all and end all. These are the ways that I know that have really helped people. Right, so going to have some water and have a read of intentions and clearings. So I want to clear any remnants that I don't even know that are blocking me and stopping me. Oh, Pippi, you're going to love this line because I was writing a script today. Let me read you just a bit of this line. It says, la 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 la. Where is that bit? Oh yeah, so to clear any and all blockages through time, known and unknown, seen and unseen, conscious or unconscious, from this lifetime, send it back from whence it came into infinity and beyond. And I put that in, and generally speaking, you wouldn't have heard that because you'd be probably tranced out when I'm actually saying these words. But as you've mentioned it, Pippa, I'll tell you what is coming. The reason I've put that in is so that your unconscious mind can let go of the thing where in a week's time or even tonight or tomorrow or a month's time or 6 months, you go, oh, I should have said this. It's like, it's not about that. Because the reason we're talking about it beforehand is so that you can energetically start lighting things up and you can start making those interconnections. So you don't have to consciously be aware of everything. We're going to be putting that intention into the clearing, and we're going to be asking your unconscious mind, your inner mind, your higher self to also, because that's, particularly if you think of it in terms of higher self, if that's part of your belief set, your higher self has a glorious, wonderful overview of everything. Which is also outside of your conscious awareness. So we will be, coming at it from that perspective. Okay, to let go and clear out anxiety from the past, business and personal financial issues, including family, unlink remaining ties to family beliefs about money on both sides of enough and not enough, and we are not cut out to be wealthy. Our kind don't do that style of thinking. I like it. Also, we want to clear anything blocking me from my mission and being paid for my efforts. Forgive self when value was not matching to intention and ask for forgiveness for it. And what can I bring value? We have got a forgiveness little thing coming up at the end, so I'd say you definitely maybe want to, when we whiz through that one in terms of just a few practices that you might want to play with, definitely take note of the forgiveness one because you might want to play with that as a process as well. Let's see. My intention is to clear any blocks around attracting healing clients so I can truly achieve my soul's purpose in this lifetime. Yay! And forgive the self. And that of ancestral ties and blocks relating to self-value and worth. And this has been a week of synchronicity and opportunity for me to practice forgiveness, people and situations I think about on the journey to work and then get in touch with real life. Hence, not an hour ago, a call out of the blue and an opportunity for me to send forgiveness. Cool, I like it. Also, we've got that I'm not in control of my life. I can't speak. Experience, which is quite important in what we do, and to clear all of that. Okay, righty. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to drop that into that document. So just in case there's anything I want to refer back to, it's probably going to be easier to see it in there, and I'll add it to, what was I looking at earlier? Let me drop it in there so it's all kind of in the same place. This is one I created earlier. God, there's a lot. There we go. That's the end of that segment. So let's label it properly. gosh, 6th of September already. Alrighty, so I'm going to drop those there, so just in case I want to come back and refer to any of those rather than super scrolling and becoming anchored to people. So clear all back pulls to previous relationships and also anchors to negative experiences, and anchored to people. Cool. Okay. Fab, fab, fab. Alrighty. All right. So. Oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, Winnie, that's lovely. So Winnie says, the last time I was on the webinar, I said if extra money came in, I would buy a premium bond. My sister just checked my lottery ticket and guess what? She said I won and the money is enough to buy one premium bond. How wonderful is that? Winnie, I would say that is beyond wonderful. Congratulations. I love that. I absolutely love, love, love it. And I think I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again because you've reminded me of that. I would say if you're ever in a position, like there are times, for example, Holland and Barrett is a good example. I will be, now they do have their 2-for-1 sale and sometimes a penny sale, but sometimes they've got nothing going on. But I think, oh, and I need some obscure item, like, I don't know, chia seeds. So I go in, I go, oh man, chia seeds, how much are they again? And then I'll get there and they'll be doing a random special offer on chia seeds. I'm like, yes. One of the things you can do when that happens, number one, I always do the happy dance and go, oh, that's so cool. If you want to, let's just say the chia seeds were $6.95 a bag and they're doing 2-for-1 or buy one, get one half price, which is a normal thing. What you can take is some of the savings that you've made. You can maybe even if you just took half or 20%, 30%, or even all of it, but the savings you made, and it could be as simple, I showed you the big bottle on one of the previous webinars, and you could physically move the money from your purse, account, whatever, and put it somewhere else. And the reason being, you were going to spend that money anyway. You'd already geared up to go, I'm going to buy whatever I'm going to buy. Then you get it on special offer, or it's reduced or whatever it happens to be. And I'd say a really good practice, a fun thing to do, is to then move some of that money off and just then kind of almost leave it there, forget about it, and just tell it to invite its friends over. And that could be a really, really cool thing to do. So that's cool. It's fine, Victoria. I know exactly what you mean. If Victoria's saying excuse the typos, it's fine. It's fine. When he says, I know it's lovely, I've also been practicing gratitude for everything that I have in my life. And seriously, Winnie, I've lost track now of the number of people, a number of times I've seen the whole gratitude thing come up. And there are times I'd said it to someone and they sort of rolled their eyes to go like, oh, you're on the gratitude bandwagon. I went, hold on there just a minute. I said, I've been doing that for 19 years and running my magic and gratitude group for what must be 7 years now. So we're not bandwagon jumping. It just so happens that the rest of the world is now talking about it in a bigger way. But I have to say it's one of the things that does kind of give me a sense of sanity and can put things into perspective for me at times. So, clearing old remnants. As we get into doing the process, I've got a few questions, a few things to ask you so you can start benchmarking where you're at. Then we're going to get into the process. One of the things I would say, once we finish going through the overview of what we're going to be doing, just so your unconscious mind has a sense of what's coming up, you definitely want to drink some water because it's good to be hydrated for these processes. It just helps neurologically to have things flow more smoothly. So make sure you've got some water to hand. Now, the idea of remnants, I know from the people who emailed me, and I think 6 people emailed to go, yeah, remnants sounds good. Yeah, nothing to add. Let's do remnants. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So number one, does the idea resonate with you? If it does, great. If it doesn't, you don't have to go in that direction, but I'm sure there'll be some other things we're clearing, which you can go, oh yeah, oh yes, I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. If the idea of remnants does resonate with you, my first question is, what you ask yourself, what useful purpose do they serve? What's the purpose in having things be that way? And this isn't the time for yes but, or going, yeah, but it doesn't help. It's like, oh, it's not a logical thing. So you just go with first things that come to mind. What purpose do they serve? And you're just asking yourself that question, and go with the first thing that comes to mind. Then you go, okay, what else? What else? What else? What else? So if I were to just kind of, cycle back to, let me just grab something at random from here. That I'm not in control of, that you're not in control of your life. If I were to say, okay, what purpose does that serve? For example, the whole thing about not being in control of your life. And this is, I'm not saying this has got anything to do with the person who wrote this, but it could be that it stops you having to take responsibility. If you're not in control of your life, actually, ultimately, nothing is your fault. If you're not in control of your life, it means that, well, can't help it, I don't have to try too hard. If you're not in control of your life, it means that you don't have to really try and go for what you want, because you go, it's no point trying anyway, because, and it gets you, and actually, and if you kept drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling with that, it's like, okay, what does all of that get for you? What does all of that allow you to do? And weirdly and randomly, it will be something as crazy as it means I can relax, so I don't have to try too hard, I don't have to keep pushing, because, and it's like, well, great, and that's fine, but how can you relax and still be more in control and get what you want? So often at the end of that chain of events, there's something which is beneficial to you, but it is manifesting itself and showing up in a way that is not conducive to your health, your well-being, your levels of success, etc., etc. So be open when you say, okay, what purpose, this thing that's blocking me, this thing that's stopping me, these old memories and thoughts, maybe things going wrong with business or things with family and stuff in the past, what useful purpose do they serve? And just sit with that for a while. So if you're watching this as a replay, or you're rewatching it, for those of you here live, you might want to press pause at this point if there's anything else that kind of comes up in the future, and go, okay, this is a bit of a pattern, I've seen this before, I've experienced it before, what purpose does this serve? And just see what comes to mind. I would always say to people, you get what you need to learn from that situation, because if something has been recurring, there's a chance that there's a kind of a lesson or an insight, or what in photo reading terms I'd call the aha moment, or the light bulb moment, where there's something that when you get it, when the penny drops, you go, man, that makes sense. And then as soon as you have that, what I call the wake up and smell the coffee moment, everything changes. You're like, oh my God. So, for me, while I was terrified of public speaking, for example, there was just a moment where I thought, of course I've got useful things to say, and I have been through some experiences which could help other people, so why wouldn't I want to speak about that? And it was just like, I asked the question, I was like, oh, I can't answer that question. Why wouldn't I want to speak about it? It's like, I don't know. Well, maybe I should. And then my older sister said, because a couple of Christmases ago we were at her house, and my sister had bought what was her new boyfriend, it's now her fiance, and he'd never met me before. And so he said, oh, Marilyn, what do you do? And I was like, oh God, she's going to freak him out now. And I said, oh, and he said, oh, you seem to like speak. And I said, oh, I used to be really terrified of public speaking, and then I did a personal development course. My sister chimes in, she's stirring something, her cooking. She went, yeah, she hasn't shut up since. So there was a moment where I suddenly went, why wouldn't I share? Why wouldn't I speak? And the rest, as they say, is history. So Victoria says, aha, I got mine. Cool. So there's that. And then what I would say is, the next question is, okay, with regards to these things, the patterns, the programming, the remnants, the beliefs, the blocks, etc., who would you be without them? And again, you sit with that one. And the obvious answer would be, will I be happier? Will I be freer? That's fine. Get all of those out, because in, access consciousness and Huna terms, where we're talking about the polarities, the dichotomies, the right and wrong, the good and bad, the polar opposites, the end of the extremes, or in Huna terms, the corners of the triangle, which is the dichotomy and the opposing forces. If we look at it from that point of view, there's going to be positives to all of these questions. They're going to be the what you might call the negative side as well. So you just kind of go, okay, who would I be without them? Sometimes the answer to that is people don't know. Sometimes to that, people realize they're going to maybe have to step up and be an improved, better, freer, more outgoing, more forthright, confident version of themselves. So just go with the flow of whatever comes to mind. And this is one to do, a really good one to also do as well, all of these will be good to do as journaling processes, where you almost do what I call free noting, free writing. We've talked a bit about, are they yours and someone else's? Because when you see the thoughts and the beliefs and the ideas coming up, is this mine or someone else's? And someone else's, as I said, could mean you inherited it. Somebody said it. Somebody could say, oh, all the redheads in this family are so X, Y, Z. And then if you happen to turn out to be a redhead, you're going to believe that you're X, Y, Z. Or people could be as loose and as blanket as, oh, well, the women in our family, ... And someone's already alluded to that by saying that's not for us. That's not the way we think, and da. So they're not necessarily yours. They are now, but they weren't yours. You inherited them, or you heard them, or you even sometimes observe them by osmosis, where, I had a client once, she said, it was never said to her about a woman's place, but she observed her mother being subservient and literally cowering along behind her father. So it was never said, but she then got the idea that you should always be in someone's shadow and you should never be the leader of anything. So it's interesting how, and that's why I say they're a little bit insidious sometimes. I would also say notice where they reside. They can reside sometimes, let's say, for example, in your mind. They can sometimes reside in your body. They can reside in your psyche. They can reside in your energy field. They can reside in your memory. They can reside in your soul. They can reside in your spirit, if you make a distinction between those and see them as different and separate. So just notice when I say, okay, in terms of these remnants, in terms of these memories from the past, in terms of these things that might be hanging around, almost like echoes, where do they reside? And what you might want to do just for a moment is close your eyes. Think about what you've already said and typed into the chat, and what you've written, if you've been writing it down as well. Close your eyes and just go, right, all of that, what I've just said, this has stirred up, where does it reside? And it doesn't have to be in one place, it can be in several places, but just notice, where does it reside? And just close your eyes for a moment and tune in and notice what you notice. Where does it reside? And it might be that you feel something. So for example, when I was thinking about something just now, it was behind me, outside of me almost. But if I had wings, like let's say if I was an archangel, I don't know what the physiology would look like, how the wings are inside, but it's like it's inside of me about that much. Then it comes out and it's outside of me and it's behind me. So it's almost external with a bit of internal is the best way I can describe it. So there will be times where you just get a thought, you get a feeling, you get a sense. For some of you, if you're visual, you'll get a visual of what that is. Brilliant. So you say it's so one of the ahas is and kind of what's the purpose, etc. It's very much about staying safe. So the question becomes to that one, fine, great, and how can you be safe even when you've let go of this? Because if this doesn't serve you, and I know it's going to sound weird, but when people hold on to these things and it doesn't serve them, it's kind of sabotaging them. That in of itself puts people almost in danger. That in of itself will sabotage their career prospects. That in of itself will sabotage their finances. That in of itself could sabotage their relationships in terms of levels of confidence, what they're able to do, etc., etc. So when you look at the end result, it's kind of sometimes devastating. That's not safety. So your mind will then go, whoa, hold on a minute. Oh yeah, you're right. So I'm doing the very opposite. I'm doing the very thing you want me not to do. So what are we going to do now? And then the question becomes, how can you keep yourself safe whilst letting go of this stuff and creating what you want? And the trick here now is to build new strategies where you get your inner mind, your unconscious mind, your higher self, and however else you language it, and you get them in the game and say, okay, then what can we do to release and resolve this and let it go and still feel safe? Because it's in there. The strategy, the mechanism is in there. So what about guilt if you move forwards and not wanting to cause jealousy? In some way, it's a version of staying safe. Yeah, well, okay, I won't say what I was going to say. I'll think of a nice way to say it. Hold on a minute. I'll think about that while I'm in some water. All right. I'll say this with love, but I might have to say sod the others. Look, and I'm going to come back to something my mother used to say to me now. Depends where you grew up and how old you are, etc., etc. There was a time when I was at school where the Dunlop green flash, green stripe, as they were called, were the trainers to have. They're like fabric plimsolls. They were white with the Dunlop sort of flash triangle, and it was green. I desperately wanted a pair of these. Now, my mum was shopped down Brixton Market for financial and logistical reasons. We lived in Clapham and then we lived in Vauxhall, so it's down the road technically. She got me a pair of these trainers, which were not Dunlop. They look similar, but whereas the Dunlop had a nice tapered toe, the ones she got me were basically a pair of square trainers. So there's a lot of fabric and it's loose. So anybody would at a glance know they weren't the Dunlop green stripe. So I was mortified. And I said, my friends are going to laugh at me. And my mother's response, which was not helpful at the time, but as an adult, I totally get it. She says, if they're your friends, they won't laugh at you. That didn't help me in the moment because I knew what was coming when I went into school wearing them. Didn't help at that time. But as an adult, I'm like, actually, yeah, if somebody's with me, they're for me. If somebody's got my back, they've got my back. And I think if you ever want to see a really beautiful example of this, I've got goosebumps, find one of the interviews with Oprah Winfrey where she's talking about Gail, or Gail is talking about Oprah, and they talk about their friendship. And Oprah says one of the reasons she and Gail have been friends for such a long time is, she says, when something good happened to me, Gail was always happier for me than I was for myself. And in those times where she needed to be picked up, Gail was there, cheerleading or holding the space. And I thought that for me defines the kinds of people that it's wonderful to be surrounded by. So if you are in a situation where that's a factor, I don't want to be too harsh about it, but I might just have to say it in a nice way. You might need to find better grade, better quality of friends and colleagues. And there are people, sometimes you don't choose who you're associating with. Sometimes you just got to be in the situation that you're in. Now we got to come back to, my mum would also say, because my mum would, when it came to a school report time and all the rest of it, and, if I hadn't done something, or, you get a slightly bad report. And I say, oh, but everybody, she's like, I don't care about everyone else. I'm talking to you. And again, was not helpful in the moment, didn't help me as a child, didn't help me as a teenager, but as an adult, I'm like, she was spot on again. She doesn't care about the others. She's talking to me, not everybody else. So she doesn't care what the others are doing. I don't care what the others are doing. When you're in class, you focus. I don't care what the others are doing. I don't care if she called playing the fool or playing the arse, as she used to say. She don't care about that. I need to do what I'm doing. And I'll be like, but it's so true. It is so absolutely spot on and so true. So that's the thing I would say about that. Now, of course, you have to decide in terms of your friendships, your relationships, your colleagues, etc. And I would say you might have to do the thing where you, let's say in spiritual, when I first started doing psychic development workshops, they talk about your energy field, the energy bubble, whatever it might be, but you have to or a friend of mine, Mandy Collins, talks about putting your big girl panties on, but you have to just kind of go, okay, I'm going to put a layer between me and them, so that I no longer allow them to get into my psyche. And quite frankly, unless you're a clairvoyant or somebody says it to you out loud, and I've had people say stuff to me out loud as well, so I haven't had to guess. Sometimes people are thinking about themselves. They haven't really got that much time to think about you anyway, but we as human beings will spend so much time thinking about what the others might think and what the others might say and how they might perceive it, and quite frankly, half the time they don't give a damn. They're just doing what they're doing. So I think you then afterwards sit and have to think about all of those factors and just ask how much energy you want to allow that to take. So that's what I would say about that. Let's see. Hold on. So I just got screw. I got a screw. Right, cutting off the flow of life and fear of letting go of fear that someone can take life from me. Like a different chunk of what Anne says, okay? And super true, and thank you for the kind words. You are most welcome. Oh, it's nice. So grateful for this program and the space to transform this area of life. Now, given that you've brought it up, this might be an unpopular view, but I've got some bad news. At some stage, as it stands at the moment, things could change, technology could supersede us, but as it stands at the moment, everyone's going to go at some point. If you believe in past lives and all that sort of stuff, then you might come back as a different form. You might even come back as a human. I don't know. But the fact is, everybody's going to go. So the fact isn't then that's not the thing. My thing is always, and this is just, I would call it one of a Marilyn-ism. I'm not saying it's true, but one of the things I say to myself is, given that one day my number will be up, I've got no idea when that would be. I've always said, look, as long as I'm fit and healthy and well, I've got my physical, my spiritual, my mental, my emotional faculties about me, I'm happy to live and be 150. Cool. But that is unlikely to happen in terms of what we know currently about human lifespan. So given that I know my number's going to be up, the question now becomes, I don't know when that is, but for every single day that I'm given and gifted, what am I going to do with that day? And that's basically it. That's basically it. So I can't put too much stock and too much energy beyond that in terms of, oh, but what about this? And what about that? And what if that happened? I'm just going to trust that when my number's up, my number's up. And there have been a few times, I nearly drowned once in the Caribbean in the, I was floating in the sea and I didn't realize how far I'd gone out until I hit the safety buoy where you're basically in the ocean. And I'm not a strong swimmer. I had the thing last year in the park with the guy. So I've had a few times where I'm like, ooh, but I'm still here. So I'm like, well, clearly those weren't my days. And if they were, there are things I still want to do for sure. But I've had quite a good innings so far. I've, worked through a number of challenges, overcome some things I didn't think were possible. So I'd say I've given it a pretty good go. I know there's way more capacity, and that's as far as I'm going to give it now in terms of, oh my God, what might happen? And I'm just going to go, right, I'm here today. What's going on? It's very simplistic, but that's one of the things that keeps me sane. But that's just me. I'm not saying that everybody has to be thinking in that way, but I would say it has massively helped me to be able to kind of think about it in those terms. And then it's like a reality check, really. I'm like, yeah, so what? Everybody's going to go at some stage. None of us know when that will be, and how. And that's the end of it. And I have got a friend who's clairvoyant. She can see when it's time for people to go, but when it's not their time, she doesn't see that. And we spoke today, she didn't say a word. And I've always told her, let me know, just in case of anything I really want to do. I think we're all good. So, right. And the final one, this is really from a lovely lady. Well, I don't know her personally, but she seemed lovely when I met her and did seen her in videos and stuff. A lady called Byron Katie. It's called The Work, and it's very simple. She basically, whatever you say in terms of negativity and blockages, she just says, is that really true? And then you just have to sit with that question. Is that really true? Is my family really blocking me? Are people really pulling me back into the past? And you just have to sit and contemplate, are these statements, are these things, are these thoughts, are they really true? And then now we come down what is truth. And I think truth becomes the thing sometimes that we give the most energy to, we give the most thought to. So therefore, one of the things you might want to do, that people talk about the analogy in terms of there are two lions or tigers, whatever you want to analogy you want to throw it into. But the one I heard first was two lions inside of us, and it's a man talking to his son, and they're having the discussion, and the son says, oh, which is the most powerful? It's like the one you feed. So it's like, oh yeah, so now it kind of comes back to that as well, where attention goes, energy flows, however you want to put it, whatever platitude you want to chuck it into. it basically all leads to the same thing. The thing that gets the most attention from us, we can then almost solidify that and make it a reality. And oftentimes people will spend a fleeting amount of time thinking about what they want, because, oh, well, don't daydream, you know, you're away with the clouds, come back to reality, be realistic, and spend inordinate amount of time thinking about what they don't actually want. So, you know, a few things for you to mull over and think about. And so, in terms of the things that you shared in the chat and the things that you may have shared via email before that, you're scooping them all up now, and you're going to go, okay, these things, how much do they impact your life? Scale of 1 to 10. Well, 1 equals not at all. 10 equals it is constant. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. The next thing you do, once you've got a number, you go, okay, how will I know when this old energy has cleared and disappeared now? What will be different? What will be different in terms of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what I'm saying, what I'm hearing, internal dialogue? And just think, how will I know when this old energy has disappeared? How would I know? Okay, let me just come back to the public speaking one, given that we've been talking about that. One of the ways I knew I would know that my fear of public speaking disappeared, I was on my NLP practitioner training. I'm sat in the hotel room in Wrights Lane in Kensington. There's a guy called Paul Vernon running around the room. People are putting their hand up. He appears like a genie. He answers the question. He goes on to the next person. And I remember sitting there. I've mentioned this, I know, on one of the webinars before. I sat there. I looked at Paul and I said, I wish I could be like that one day, where you could ask me a question and I could come up with an answer or at least something to say, rather than being like a rabbit in the headlights. I just wish I could be like that one day. And that was in October 2000. In December 2000, they offered me Paul's job. In January, I started that job because he was just filling in for someone who'd emigrated back to Australia. So, you know, but the way I knew, even though I didn't realize that's what I was doing, and that's where I also started talking about the what I call speaking it into existence, the way I would know that things were different is that someone could ask me a question, and rather than going, oh my God, and freezing, I'd be just like, well, actually, boom, 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 just like he was. So just start thinking about, what's it going to be for you when this old energy has now cleared, when it's now disappeared, when it's a thing of the past, you've closed the door on it, it's all kind of done and dusted. How will you know? What will be the thing? What will you be thinking, feeling, doing, saying that's different to the now? So really think about that. Then what you're kind of doing is you're kind of just asking yourself, is it okay for you to let go of the past, to let go of the negative memories, to let go of the negative energy, and to let go of any past life or intergenerational connections and ties? Is it okay? Now, oftentimes, let's say if I'm doing a breakthrough session with someone, they've put down a chunk of cash, they're going to give me a day of their time, and I'm saying, is it okay? And you can almost hear them, or if you're on Skype, you'll see them going, well, of course it's okay. What do you think I've just paid you for? But that's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking about logic. I'm asking about in the core of your being, because sometimes it's not okay. This brings us back to the conversation we were just having in terms of what's the reason? What do you get for having things be this way? So if it's a no, you ask yourself what stops and blocks you. And then you also want to know, do you give yourself permission to let this go, and to create and start a clean slate, to start afresh? So when it's okay to let it go, when you can give yourself permission, and one of the things you might want to do right now is kind of go, if it's okay, you just say, okay, yes, I give myself permission, and it is okay to now let this go. Full stop, as my coaster went bosh on the table. And this is something you're affirming to yourself. This is something you are affirming to your inner mind. This is something, if you believe in such concepts, you're affirming to the core of your being, to your soul, and saying, yes, enough. It is now time. And that's kind of what you're going for. 9 to 5, not fun. So it's a 9.5 at the moment and a 6. And I know when I don't stop doing what I intend to do without blinking about other people, obviously without harming them, cool. And you know what? I am not yet at that stage. It's a work in progress. I'm not in a stage where I don't care about what people think. I do. And there's a human tendency. I worked it out when I created the NeuroSuccess Limitless e-coaching program, because that was a mix of it is a mix of neuroscience and personal development. I was also looking at something that, let's say a way I could put it without doing all the scientific stuff is call it brain bias. And they were saying they don't know if it's something to do with, let's say, our caveman ancestry, where you always had to be on alert and thinking about worst case scenario, so a dinosaur didn't come and bite your head off, sort of thing. But there's a thing that still exists, even in modern times, where somebody could get 8 or 9 pieces of praise. They could get 1 or 2 pieces of negative feedback, and all of the attention then shifts to the negative feedback, and the 8, 9, 10 pieces of praise can fall by the wayside. That just seems to be, for some reason, and they say it's for some survival reason, that tends to be the way, generally speaking. It's all about, not everyone, but generally speaking, that seems to be the way the brain is hardwired. So one of the things it was useful for us to do as weird being, nobody has to do anything, but one of the things I find it is useful to do is look at that bias and then go, do you know what? If we take, let's say we think about, doctors when they take that oath in terms of basically do no harm. If you come at it with that thing where your intention is clear, your intention is pure, to do no harm, now you also then will go, and do you know what? If somebody doesn't like me, if somebody's upset by what I'm doing and I've done it with good heart and good intention, I can now not allow myself to lose too much sleep over that. And I always say, look, take the feedback, try it on for size. If it fits and there's something to learn from it, you go, cool, fair play, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. If you look at it, you size it up and it doesn't belong to you, and it's sometimes their stuff that gets projected onto you, you go, thank you very much, you hand it back. And you don't have to physically hand it back, you can energetically hand it back. So they know nothing about it, you just smile and nod and say, thank you so much for the feedback. And in my line of work, when I'm out in corporations, running trainings, etc., number one, people often didn't like management consultants because they deemed that they just got paid a load of money and came in and told you what you already knew. Nobody ever said that to me, and once I'd done my work, they're like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're here. But the initial thing, and so I had to do a lot of smiling and nodding and just going, this is not my stuff. They are projecting onto me anger, fear, frustration, whatever it might be, and I'm not going to allow myself to take that on board, because I'm here to do a job and I'm going to get on with what I'm here to do. So thank you for sharing, as a friend of mine says, and I'm now going to have to let that pass me by. Cool. Yes, good framing. Seriously, it is. It's just like, in the grand scheme of things, how much does it matter? And there are times I'm like, you know what, I'm not it's not a doormat thing, because there's a different, when you're being a doormat. I mean, most people know that. For me, I'm like, I cannot even allow myself to give this any time, any energy. In the grand scheme of things, it's a blip in the ocean. I'm gone. And I think that there have been a few people that have done things and which have been a little bit upsetting, but then I've seen them later on, sometimes the same day, and they're completely thrown because I'm not upset about it. I'm not, and they all go, oh yeah, and I'm like, it's done. Oh, and it's like, it's not a denial thing. I just haven't got the time, energy, space, or will to hold that in my psyche. Life's too short for that. I'm gone. I've moved on to the next thing already. So, but it's one that will come with, you just are, one of the things I hear to myself, in the grand scheme of things, how much does this matter? And if the answer's not much, then I have to say to myself, how much time and energy and focus am I willing to give this? And there'll be times where there's a friend of mine, Gina, I sometimes phone and go, I'm having a rant, and then, or she'll vice versa, and then our job is just to go like this, and just let it run its course. And I go, cool, good, excellent, it's gone now. A bit like when, parents let children scream and do a little bit, and then they'll just tire themselves out. It's a little bit like that sometimes. So So rating 9. Cool. Right, so we've got 9, we've got 5, we've got 5, we've got 6, we've got 9.5. Cool. And what I would also say is I will cut and paste that. She says, let me do that. I'll cut and paste that. What I'm also going to say is make sure you've written it down for yourself, because at some point it will be really useful for you to find those notes or go back and have a look, and you'll go, oh my God. So when I found my notes a few years ago where I was, writing my goals list about being able to speak to people and look them in the eye and having the confidence to, network and all the rest of it, I read it and it's like it was written by someone else. But I know when I wrote it, I remember the pen that I was using because my pen had run out and I had to borrow a pen from a friend of mine called Gina Batt. Some of you know Gina because she happened to be sitting next to me, so she lent me a pen. It was a gold metallic. She had a metallic gold, which was too light. She gave me a metallic light sky blue pen. So when you write with the ink, it's got glitter in it. I mean, Sonny Olmo would love that. So I remember all of those things. But when I read it, I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe that's what I was wishing for now. But at the time it was everything. And so sometimes it's really nice where you come back and you find these things and you see how much things have changed, because you don't always notice the change in the moment. Sometimes a passage of time is required, and people can also very quickly forget where they were. Right, so what we're going to do now, we've got a couple of things to do, and what I always do with this section for people who might be watching this for the first time, is I will turn off my camera when we do the processes. The reason being, we don't want any because if I'm doing a bit of huna, I'm moving about, and even if you've got your eyes closed, sometimes when somebody's moving something or the energy's moving, you can feel it, and then you look, and then I become a distraction to the process. So I will turn my camera off so that you can just focus in on what it is you are doing. And we will then start going through the process. So I'm going to tell you sort of what's coming up. So one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to do, to loosen things up, we're going to do a round of access consciousness for some of the things I received via email. And I'm also going to do a round from the Access Consciousness Level 2 Practitioner Training, which I did with Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here when they came over to London. It's level 2 stuff. So the way it goes, you do access bars, foundation, level 1, level 2, level 3. So when you get to level 2, there's a lot of stuff that's gone beforehand. This is a little bit out there. I'm going to just put it on the table. It's a little bit weird. So when you hear some of the statements, you're like, what the hell is she talking about? Let me just pull one at random. So this is about ancestor worship. Okay, actually, that's not too far off what we're doing. So ancestor worship, this is the statement. This is the kind of like what you're going to say to bring up the energy to clear it. What creation of ancestor worship are you using to validate history, culture, religion, and other people's realities? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. And then for those of you who've done access before, if it's okay, you go, yeah, right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pop, shorts, boys and beyond. Let's see, space of being. Who or what are you defending for or against, that if you didn't defend for or against it, you would allow you to have and be everything you truly be? Everything that is times a gazillion, will you destroy and uncreate it? Yes, right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pop, shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, these statements are totally not written in a way that your conscious mind will go, oh yeah, that makes sense. This is not those kind of statements. And so if you're trying to understand the statement, my thing would be, let that go. It's just about you hear the energy of it. If there's a piece in there that resonates, so you go, I have no idea what the hell that is, but it sounds like a good thing to let go of. Yes. Then you just say yes. So we're going to do a round of access consciousness. And then when we've done the access consciousness, we're going to get into the piece where we're going to do a guided meditation process for clearing the remnants. So we're going to be looking at things like unhooking old psychic hooks, remnants, thought forms, implants, walk-ins, redundant genetic programming, misplaced soul fragments, regrets, disappointments, unhelpful parental, ancestral, genealogical, social and intergenerational programming, the lies, doubts and limitations that you brought into either consciously or unconsciously, and a few other things besides. So that's what we've got coming up. And so if you need, Pippa says, oh, I'm loving the list. Cool, made it up myself. So if you haven't had any water, get yourself some water. And if you're ready, and I'm going to have some water in a moment as well. I'm just going to do a final bit of cut and pasting just to make sure if I want to whiz through any of these, it's there and I can refer to it in one line rather than scrolling in that little square. And then we'll be ready to rock and roll. And also what I will say, because it often comes up in conversation, you don't have to hear everything I said, quite frankly, and this has been happening from the day I became a hypnotherapist, so in October 2000, clients would, oh actually, hold on a second. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to try and do something. I don't know if I can do multiple windows. And I will hope it keeps the webinar going. I think it should work. I'm just going to just see if I can very quickly add this. And and do that. Oh, that's what I wanted. Let me see. Do that. And do that. So yeah, talk amongst yourselves for a moment, get some water, go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom, and and then we'll get to it. So one of the things that people often say is that they will go, I didn't hear what you said. And when I first became a hypnotherapist, I would do a session. People would sit in front of me because I used to see people face to face, a therapy center. I would do the hypnosis session. I'd say, and take a deep breath in and exhale, and come back into the room. And at a rate that's pace that's comfortable, open your eyes. They'd open their eyes and you go, oh, I missed it. I didn't hear what you said. And I was like, well, how did you know to come back into the room and open it? Well, I heard that. But the fact that they didn't hear anything else, and what I came to know is that was a good thing, because what it meant is they couldn't mess it up. They couldn't second guess it. They couldn't get in the way of the process. So even if you don't hear what I'm saying, even if you don't understand what I'm saying, even if it technically speaking doesn't make sense to you, let that go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And 1 second, I feel like Elsa now. Let it go, let it go. All right, okay, check your email. Right, cool. Alrighty, my good deed is done. Okay, right. I think we're good. So any questions, any queries before we get started, or are we good to go and get into the, so I'll give you a second. I don't think there's a massive time delay on this, but I think we're good. I was with, you might have to explain that one about the Beatles. Oh, the song. Oh, the song. I got you. No, sorry. My brain was like, what? Beatles song. I got it. So I'm with Elsa. You're with the Beatles. That's fabulous. Actually, one more thing in private. Let me have a look at that. I think, same as Pippa, connect with my reality. All right, let me just drop that in as well. Right. All right, let's do this thing. Okie coke. Right, so camera. There we go. I should be gone now. So, first things first, we're going to start with our round of access consciousness. And what we want to do with this one is I'm going to run through just some of the things that you'd sent to me via email in terms of things you wanted to put into the mix to clear. So we want to just start getting the energy moving on that one. And even if you're not the person who sent it in, hi Annika, even if you're not the person who sent me the statement or whatever, if you kind of go, ooh, I like the sound of that one, when I say, is it okay to destroy and uncreate all of that? You say yes. And you can say yes out loud if you're in a place and a space where it's appropriate for you to do that. Or you can say yes in your head if you've got other people around you who might think you're a little bit bonkers. Right, so here we go. So anywhere and everywhere you have had experiences where there have technically been gremlins in the works and things have felt heavy and difficult, and it's been one thing after another, knockback after knockback, and loads of even just little things, but the cumulative effect of them, it's almost like they're happening in quick succession. And it's been knocking your confidence and increasing your sense of anxiety. Anywhere and everywhere that resonates with you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that? And if you will, it's a yes. Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere those setbacks, those difficulties, those challenges have been impacting your confidence, increasing your levels of anxiety, anywhere and everywhere where you've been stuck in that pattern, you've been stuck in that paradigm, and it's now time to release and resolve and clear and destroy and uncreate all of that. Will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere you've been dragged back in terms of these remnants, these memories, these thoughts, and you've been thinking back to past failures and then losing your sense of confidence and having it eroding your sense of self, your sense of being, your sense of self-esteem. Anywhere and everywhere where that pattern now no longer serves you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere the thought of past debts, bankruptcies, county court judgments, judgments against you, compensation, refunds that have to be given, and feeling trapped in the cycle of debt, anywhere and everywhere that has been a remnant from the past, and that has been in your timeline and in your state of being. Anywhere and everywhere the energy of that no longer serves you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere it's a sense that your life and your worth and your sense of worth is being exchanged for money and is being exchanged as money. So you and your sense of self have become inexplicably and negatively tied to the money and to exchange. Anywhere and everywhere where that correlation, that pairing no longer serves you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyond. And anywhere and everywhere you've been kind of following up and following through on old commitments which are now out of alignment with you. So anywhere and everywhere you've been negatively pulled back into the past, and those commitments, those connections, those strategies no longer serve you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere the sense of parents fighting over money, relatives fighting over money, and old parental patterns and judgments and limitations, anywhere and everywhere where you've seen that, you've observed that, you've bought into that, you've inherited aspects of that, anywhere and everywhere where those family patterns no longer serve you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod poc shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere you felt that other people or even institutions are controlling you and controlling your money. Anywhere and everywhere the belief, the thought, the idea, the judgment, the limitation, the paradigm of that perceived control no longer serves you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere there's the pattern of not having enough. There are memories of the money running out. There are the thoughts and beliefs and the experiences of the money not flowing in fast enough or flowing out too fast. Anywhere and everywhere where those have been the old patterns and remnants and paradigms from the past, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that where it no longer serves you in this lifetime? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere you've been holding on to old patterns which no longer serve you, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere there's been a sense of guilt about you moving forwards and the others around you not being supportive or being jealous in some way, shape or form. Anywhere and everywhere those boundaries, those paradigms no longer serve your way of thinking and no longer serve your way of being, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere there's been a sense of being held back in some way, shape or form, of finding a sense that just when things are going right, it appears that the other shoe is about to drop. Anywhere and everywhere that has been the pattern, that has been the paradigm, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere you felt this pull of being dragged back to previous relationships and being anchored to negative experience in the past. Anywhere and everywhere those thoughts, those beliefs, those judgments, those paradigms, those anchors, the people, places, things, thoughts and organizations and situations, anywhere and everywhere that no longer serves you, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere you feel that you are not in control and that you can't speak, you can't express yourself, you can't create and choose and generate what it is you want to do. Anywhere and everywhere that sense that your control has been taken away or usurped in some way, shape or form, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere there is a sense of needing to forgive self, there's a sense of needing to forgive others, there are blocks relating to your self-value, to your self-worth, or even if you have to on some level forgive your ancestors, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere and everywhere there are blocks and barriers and things that you are creating and generating and having manifest for you, which stop and block you achieving your soul's purpose in this lifetime, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere you've been carrying blocks and barriers which are stopping and blocking you living your mission and receiving money, wealth for your gifts and for your time and for your efforts, anywhere and everywhere you may have even bought into the thought, the belief, the judgment, the idea, the paradigm that it's not okay to be paid for your efforts, it's not okay to be paid for your worth, that you do not bring enough value. Anywhere and everywhere those thoughts have been pervading and are stopping and blocking the flow of money, wealth and prosperity and other things that you're choosing to create, anywhere and everywhere that's been the pattern and paradigm, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And any of their remaining links and ties and connections to family beliefs about money, not having enough, not cut out to be wealthy. It's not our style of thinking. We don't do that. Any of the old thoughts, beliefs, ideas, judgments, and paradigms that linger from the past, from your family, from your upbringing, from society, for what you thought, for what you believed, for what you observed, for what you've been told, any and all of those judgments and paradigms that no longer serve you, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate them all in their entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. So any of the old thoughts, beliefs, ideas, judgments, paradigms, limitations, family and financial and business issues, anywhere and everywhere where these things have been misapplied and misidentified and been bound up into one big messy issue, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And any of the old remnants that you don't even know are there, the things that are stopping and blocking you from living a full and happy, abundant life, known or unknown, seen or unseen, in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And when you think about life, when you think about success, when you think about blockages, when you think about barriers, and you think about your perception of those things, anywhere and everywhere you have allowed what really are blips in the landscape and a drop in the ocean, anywhere and everywhere you have allowed those things to stop and block your thinking, to distort your sense of judgment, and to divert you from the bigger picture, anywhere and everywhere you have allowed those paradigms to take over, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And anywhere there and everywhere there's a disconnect between your reality and what you want to create now as your new reality. Anywhere and everywhere there's been a block, a barrier and a disconnect between those things, will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate all of that in its entirety? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And we're now going to move into some of the access statements, which, as I said, a little bit weird, a little bit out there. So if it resonates, you just say yes. If it doesn't, and you can just let it pass you by and go over your head, it's cool. So I'm just going to have some water, and then we're going to whiz through some of these access statements that were created by Gary Douglas, the creator of Access Consciousness, and the co-creator, Dr. Dane here. Right. Okie coke. Right. Okay. Right, we're starting with creating your finances, and then we'll just dive in to our pick and mix from here. So, what creation of money, finances, and your financial reality are you using to validate other people's realities? Everything that is times a gazillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And you don't have to understand these. You're just going to go with the flow, and if it resonates, that's great. If it doesn't, that's great too. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I like this one. What lie are you using to keep the holding patterns you are choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion, will you now release, resolve, and destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. Anywhere and everywhere where you have felt powerless in the face of money, what stupidity are you using to create you as powerless in the face of money are you choosing? and you just kind of notice the energy. If you don't understand the question, even if you don't understand the statement, you just allow the energy of that to resonate and bring up any of the old energy that has kind of been trapped in the system. So I'm going to say that one again. What stupidity are you using to create you as powerless in the face of money are you choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And when you think about kind of, this is one about problems, about ways that problems can be generated in your life. So what creation of problems are you using to create the problems you are choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What rescue is the past that demands a limitation of the present to avoid the future that would give you everything you desire? Everything that is times a gazillion will you now destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What physical actualization of the creation of a reality totally beyond this reality are you now capable of generating, creating and instituting? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of your financial reality are you using to validate the lack of you are you choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. Who or what have you defined as a source of being that if you didn't define it as the source of being would allow you to create and generate your life and living instead of living the life you're avoiding? Everything that is times a gazillion will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What physical actualization of $100 million are you now capable of generating, creating and instituting with ease? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you using to create the implanted dream of the starving artist syndrome are you choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you now release, resolve and destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of ancestor worship are you using to validate history, culture, religion and other people's realities? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. Who or what are you defending for or against that if you didn't defend for or against it would allow you to receive now with total ease? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of money, wealth and financial abundance are you using to invalidate the reality you could be choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of business are you using to limit what you could be choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of the permeable laws of consciousness are you choosing to pretend that consciousness is not what you are choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you choosing to defend against the potency you could be choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what physical actualization of being, the permeable laws of consciousness, are you now capable of generating, creating and instituting? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you using to defend totally against the happiness you could be choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you choosing to defend eternally against the trust in you could be choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you using to create the immunity structures you are now choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. What creation of generation, creation and institution are you using to eliminate the viability of external expansion you are choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what stupidity are you using in order to create the unhappiness you are choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, or 9 pod pocs, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what stupidity are you using to create the heaviness, misery, trauma, drama, the upset, the intrigue and the judgment you and your life are choosing? Everything that is times a gazillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? And I would say just sit for a few moments with the energy of that, because some people might feel the energy, they might feel it tingling. Some people just feel that their head is spinning. Some people feel a lightness, some people will see a change in colour. So just sit for about 30 to 60 seconds with the energy of that and just let the energy of that run through your system. And then what we're going to do is we're now going to just do a process to clear any of the last remaining remnants. And with this one, you're going to, it's easy to do it with your eyes closed if you want to kind of get deep into your imagination. And then what you can do is you can imagine floating up above now and almost floating up to the place in the space where your higher self resides, such that you and your higher self can now work in partnership, that you can work in harmony, because your higher self has a complete picture and overview of every aspect of your life, of everything that your life is about, of everything that has happened. And it's one of its jobs is to be the observer and step in when you ask and request the help of your higher self. So in your mind's eye, in your imagination, just imagine floating up to connect with the energy of your higher self now. And you're asking that everything we've done, that everything we've been doing, that everything that we will do is for your greatest and highest good and happens in a way that is right and healthy and ecological for you, and in a way that naturally integrates with where you are at in your life and is in alignment with your neurology. And from that place and that space and that vantage point, what I want you to do is imagine seeing your timeline and also seeing the way that your ancestral timelines, genealogical timelines, intergenerational timelines, cultural timelines, karmic lines and energies. Just imagine in your mind seeing the interconnection of all of those timelines, all of those aspects of this life and any other lifetimes or incarnations that are relevant. And you're asking and you are intending that the energy and the clearing goes back into the past, clears into the present, and also clears out into your future. And you're asking where you have interconnection points with your ancestors, with your genealogy, with past lives, with aspects of your culture, religion, upbringing, society, the patterns and the paradigms. You're asking that anyone else who is connected in that interdimensional web, if they choose to, you can ask that they also receive the healing energy now too. If it's relevant, if the clearing is right for them, allow it to happen. And if it's not right for them, if they still have life lessons, if they have karmic energy, just allow the clearing energy to pass them by. And we're asking that all of the aspects that impact you in this lifetime and even beyond, asking that all of those aspects be cleared now for your greatest and highest good. And if there are learnings, ask that you now receive those learnings. You may get them consciously or unconsciously. If there are life lessons, asking that you receive the life lessons in a way that's right and healthy and ecological for you and for your greatest and highest good. And you're asking that those learnings, those life lessons, those insights now be stored in your mind, in your brain, in your neurology in such a way that if you need those insights, if you need those learnings to help you now or in the future, those learnings, those insights, those new possibilities, those pathways will now be available to you whenever you need them. And you're also asking that you, from this vantage point, you get the learnings, the life lessons, the karmic insights, and you can also use those to help you, to guide you, to protect you, to keep you safe, and use them for your greatest and highest good and benefit. And asking that all of those life lessons, those learnings, those karmic insights be integrated for you now. And clearing all of the old energies, the old remnants from those past lives, from those genealogical lines, from the ancestral lines, from your immediate family lines, from the relatives that cascade out from there, and just asking that your higher self assist you now in clearing, cleaning, resolving, letting go of those old energetic forces now. And as you clear the energy, imagine being witness to and watching the healing. Imagine being witness to and watching the releasing. Imagine being witness to and watching the letting go. And having that happen and expanding out in all time and space, directions and dimensions. And just noticing the incredible ripple effect. It almost moves like electricity, clearing, clearing, resolving, and letting go. And then imagine from that vantage point where you're working in harmony with your higher self, also imagine unhooking and releasing and resolving and letting go of old psychic hooks. Letting go of all of the old remnants that no longer serve you. Letting go of the thought forms. Letting go of any implants. Letting go of any walk-ins and any energies that had attached themselves to you that have no business, no place in your life, in your mind, in your body, in your soul, in your energy field, and releasing those walk-ins now and sending them to a place and a space where they can find a compatible energy to connect with. Letting go and releasing redundant genetic programming. Letting go and releasing misplaced soul fragments. Letting go and releasing thought forms that don't even belong to you, that belong to other people, that you had, for whatever reason, had in your energy field and had in your timeline. From that vantage point, releasing old regrets and disappointments. Releasing, resolving and letting go of unhelpful parental, ancestral, genealogical, societal and intergenerational programming where it no longer serves a useful purpose for you in this lifetime. And letting go of any of the lies, the doubts, the fears, the limitations that you have bought into either consciously or unconsciously. Letting go of any and all blockages that it is now time to clear, whether those blockages are known or unknown, seen or unseen, conscious or unconscious, related to this lifetime or previous lifetimes, releasing, resolving, letting go of those blockages now. And if they belong to someone else, sending them back from whence they came with a sense of consciousness attached. And clearing all of this energy through space and time and all dimensions back to the beginning of time. Clearing out to infinity and beyond. And as you allow that clearing to now run its course, you're also working with your inner mind, you're working with your unconscious mind, you're working with your higher self, and you are now asking and requesting that you close all portals, you close all doorways, you close all cracks, such that these old thoughts, beliefs, ideas, judgments, limitations can never return to you in this lifetime if they've served no useful purpose. So closing the portals, closing the doorways, filling in the gaps, and closing that chapter, drawing a line, and you imagine that you see yourself stepping over the threshold, starting with a fresh, clean slate. And just take a moment from that vantage point of looking out into your future and noticing what it's like, having closed the door on the past, drawn a line beneath these things. Notice what it's like to have that fresh start, that clean slate, that new creative, generative energy flowing out into your future timeline and beyond. And also noticing what it's like to have a fresh and new state of being. Fresh thoughts, ideas, beliefs, mindset. And then just asking and taking a moment to ask your higher self to assist you in integrating all of the changes from today, from previous lessons, and just integrating all of those changes into your mind, into your psyche, into your body, into your spirit, into your soul, into your energy field, and integrating and aligning everything almost to the depths of your DNA in a way that is right and healthy and ecological for you, and in alignment with your thoughts, with your values, with your beliefs, and the things that are now most precious and important to you. And just taking a moment to imagine and experience or even observe that alignment process now. And then just imagine, you can say to yourself in your head, or you can say to yourself out loud, it is done, it is done, it is done. And as you say that, just imagine any of the old ties just falling away. Just like old ropes to the ground, they all disintegrate. And you have that fresh, new sense of being. And you can also be asking over the next couple of hours, in the next few nights, even the next few weeks and months, and even years out into the future, you can be asking that while you are sleeping peacefully, these changes continue to ripple throughout your neurology and ripple throughout your life in a way that supports you, in a way that energizes you, in a way that empowers you. And with every single day that passes, you notice more clarity, you notice more alignment, you notice more abundance, you notice more flow, you notice greater creativity, you notice more of a sense of resilience and robustness. And you notice you have the ability to bounce back. You have a greater ability to take things in your stride. And you also have the ability to open your mind and heart to both giving and knowing that you are worthy of receiving. And just notice and imagine how that and everything else you choose becomes your natural state of being. And then what I want you to do is just take a few minutes now just to imagine that you are looking out into your future from this vantage point of being alongside and working in harmony with your higher self. And imagine planting seeds and putting out into the future anything else you now choose to create. And it might be you think of it in terms of energy, it might be you think of it in terms of skills, it might be you think of it in terms of feelings, it may be you think of it in terms of new beliefs, it might be that you think about situations and scenarios that you would now like to create and generate and bring to fruition. So just spend a couple of minutes now putting the energy that you choose out into your future timeline. And also imagine a life and a place where everything comes to you with a sense of ease, where things come to you with a sense of joy, where things come to you with a sense of happiness, and where regardless of what is going on around you, even when things appear to be going wrong, you have that inner sense of joy. You have that inner sense of happiness. You have the inner knowing that your higher self and that the universe have got your back. And you see life more as a glorious, joyous adventure, an unfolding, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to joyfully expand, an opportunity to tap into your limitless potential. And just imagine all of those things now flowing out into your future timeline and beyond. And just from that sense, that vantage point of your higher self, just imagine looking at how all of these wonderful things are now just falling into place. And even if you can't see or don't know the entire pathway and how your life is going to play out, you know that you are always on the right track, and you know that you are always on the right path, because you are guided in the direction that is most beneficial for you now and always. And then you can thank your higher self for coming in to help you, for collaborating in this process. And then you imagine coming back down towards now and floating back into now, into the place and the space that you are currently residing in. And if you happen to be sitting, you can notice how the chair that you're sitting on feels beneath you. If you're lying down, notice what you're lying on. You might notice the texture of the clothing that you're wearing. You might imagine and notice the temperature around you. And then at a rate and a pace that is comfortable for you, you can take a deep breath in and exhale. And if you've had your eyes closed, you can now open your eyes. And you might also want to have some water. And if you're sitting down, just gently stamp your feet on the floor. If you happen to be lying down, you can take, take your left hand and pat it along the right. You can pat up and down the chest, just to kind of bring you back into the energy of now. Oh, Victoria says, wow, that was really powerful. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, and the access questions are like totally out there. And I just say with those ones, you don't, it just because there are times where you have no idea what the question is, what the statement is, but on some level it resonates. So I'd say with that one, particularly if you're going to re-listen to it as a recording, it's not one to be figured out. It's just one to just see how the energy resonates and see how it kind of lands with you. Whew. Pippa says, wow, you've done it again, Marilyn. Wonderful and powerful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're most welcome. And Annika says, well, that was capital letters meant to be. Good stuff, good stuff. So what did you feel? What did you experience? What did you notice? If there's anything else you want to share, put that in the Winnie says epic, thank you, good. And also just kind of notice, did it throw up any aha moments, any insights, anything that you went, oh, actually, made me think of this, made me think of that. What you might want to do is write those things down. So you have a little note of them. And I always say, as I say to my breakthrough coaching clients, and notice what you notice as you go through, because you'll get other thoughts and ideas and perspectives coming to mind. And there'll be times where you go, oh, where did that come from? It seems to come out of the blue, but it hasn't really, because you and your higher self have been co-creating this. No idea about the access questions. They were weird and wonderful. Annika, I'm glad you liked. Seriously, even to read them and to say them is weird and wonderful. And when I did this training, this book is the 59 pages, of access statements, and pretty much for the training, Gary and Dane sat on that stage with the workbook, just like I was doing, because I was getting them I went through today and picked out so I just written down some page numbers: page 6, 13, 10, 14, 15, 16, 19, 22, 23, 29, 33, 45, 46, and I just wrote down page numbers of things that I thought would resonate with what we've been working on. But Dane and Gary just basically sat, they went through the entire workbook and read every single one of these statements. We were sat in the audience going, yes, yes, yes. It was really weird, but they're still weird to read them now, but you know, they do tend to resonate. Pippa says, still haven't emailed you the last session, which was huge for me. I promised to. Oh, I look forward to hearing what's been going on. That'd be cool. And so one of the things I'd also say in terms of just noticing what you feel both in the immediate and over the days, weeks, even months, and because this stuff can ripple out for years, also just start thinking about, and this will be something to start coming up with over the next couple of days, what is your new philosophy on life and your philosophy about your own capacity for success. Now, I say new, it might not be new, it might be something you've always believed, but you haven't believed in it, or you haven't totally bought into it. So you might kind of, I don't know, you might have the belief that life is fabulous, life is wonderful, you have a place on this planet, you're here to do great work. So you might sort of believe that consciously, intellectually, logically, but you might not have fully bought into the idea. So it doesn't have to be a new philosophy, or it might be that something just comes to mind. You go, man, you know what? That's it. Just to give you a few examples of what I mean, a couple of my philosophies: that everything happens for a reason. That stops me. That just stops me going insane. If I'm thinking, what's going on? Why is this happening to me? This is not fair. If I bring myself back, actually, one of them. This is one that I bought this in 1995. It used to sit on my desk because I was very stressed out. So I now like it for different reasons than I did when I bought it. But it's actually a piece of rock carved into it. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. This is a quote from Albert Einstein. So that one is what used to keep me sane when people were driving me up the wall. And this is around when I was building up to the time where I was contemplating suicide. And that used to sit on my desk in front of me in my cubicle at work, just to remind me that, okay, what I'm going through now, there's going to be an opportunity in here somewhere. So you know, there was that as well. So just think about kind of what it might be for that, and just notice what you notice. So if you have any questions, any queries about anything we've touched on, drop those into the chat, drop them into the Q&A. Annika says, well, opportunities must be all around at this time and moment. Absolutely. And you know what, one of the things you can say is, show me the opportunity for today, or in terms of what's going on, show me the opportunity from this particular scenario or situation, and just ask to be shown the opportunity. Get on with your day and remain open and notice kind of what comes through. So just a couple of little things that you can play with as exercises. One of them is the kind of money momentum. So tomorrow, because we're all in different time zones, for us in the UK it's just gone 10:30 p.m. For those of you in the UK, America, Canada, it might be 4 or 5 p.m. depending on which part, your region you're in. Pippa, we know for you it's early in the morning, but you know, sometime in what will be your version of tomorrow, or if you've already started your day today, find 5 minutes of stillness to quiet your mind. Think about your money. I say the word desires. You change that word if it doesn't resonate with you, but think about your money desires, and then ask, what one action can I take today to move myself another step closer to my desires and where I want to be? Sometimes the idea will come to you straight away and you're like, and other times you've got no idea, but you move through your day and then suddenly an idea, an action will come to mind. So that's one that you might want to play with as an exercise. Another is once you're in that place, in that space of, okay, I'm still, if you have things that need to be sorted out, let's say unpaid bills and all the rest of it, this is an exercise, practical exercise that you can do. And this is one that's from the 28-day money breakthrough program. is you can take those bills. You don't have to open them all straight away, but put them into category, because sometimes you can immediately recognize an envelope, like what they used to call the brown envelope. So you just start putting, and then some you can immediately recognize junk mail. So you can just put them into categories, and you can feel good about taking that first step in terms of sorting something out. Where you are paying your bills, if you're actually, nowadays it's much rarer to actually, write checks or the rest of it, but it might be that you're in a shop and you hand over, you tap your card or you hand over some money, and you just kind of say something along the lines of, I am grateful that I have the money to continue to pay you, to continue to pay my bills. And if you're paying things online electronically, as you hit the confirm transaction key, you can say the same thing and send that energetic kind of gratitude. So that's another little thing you can do to sort of play with the energy of this. And I said, this will be kind of an exercise in its own right. But for those of you who were talking about forgiveness earlier on in the webinar, you can think of where you've made mistakes or unwise decisions with money. I say have you, most people have, but not everybody has to have. Identify 3 ways that you can build on or learn from those situations. And then you can say to yourself, if it is time to let go of the old guilt, you say to yourself, you say to money, I forgive you, do you forgive me? So this can be a bit of a dialogue with money about like the money relationship, money date night thing. You then imagine cutting the old energetic ties, and you can do that visually in your mind, or you can actually, do something to signify cutting, however you want to do it. And then you kind of say, look, have I truly learned what I need to get from this situation such that this is the end of it? It doesn't need to repeat itself. And so you can also sit with what are the learnings that you can take from this situation, and just see what comes to mind. So that's another sort of quick process you can use if you wanted to do that. And one of the things you can do, if you haven't been doing it, this will be a really good one to start to instigate. Now, I just like the 28 days because it's normally a nice neat number for a month, 31 days if it's a longer month, but you know what I mean. But before you go to bed, if you wanted to, for the next 28 days, it sounds like a lot, 10. And if there are times when you're going, oh, what else? But before you go to bed, you can write down 10 things that you're happy about, appreciative of, grateful for, however you want to phrase it, but you're appreciative about money. It might be something that it has allowed you to do. It might be something that it has afforded you. It might be something you've been able to do for something else. It might be an experience you've been able to enjoy. It could be as basic as it has allowed me to eat today. So you can start playing with the idea of that. Very kind of similar to the process that we do in the money, the kind of magic and gratitude group. If you have your kind of notes, and I say £50, but depending on, of course, where you live, you'll have different denominations, but hold the highest denomination you've got and just kind of sit with it before you go to bed and just notice how your relationship with money is continuing to change and continuing to improve. And also, if you kind of, in terms of thinking about new philosophies, aha moments, learnings, perspectives, there might be a new belief, a positive belief that you want to affirm about money. And that can be a really nice process to do before you go to bed, just to kind of bring it all into fruition. So that is that. I'll have a quick cycle through in a moment. I don't think there are any additional questions. So I just want to say thank you for joining me and for taking part. I like that Pippa says feeling very excited, and it all starts now in capital letters. Good stuff. And with this one, I just say go with the flow. And I'd like, I don't know. My observation of life is that it's a bit like the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the up and the down, the hot and the cold, the good and the bad. It's just like, stuff happens. Not everything is happy, clappy and joyous. And I don't know where we got the idea that it absolutely has to be. But even in those times where things are not going exactly the way you've wanted to go, things are not going exactly the way you've planned, you just kind of go, okay, what's the lesson? What's the learning? Or just remain open and curious about what those opportunities, what those silver linings, what those aha moments, what those learnings might be. And, miraculous things can happen from there. And in closing, for those of you who are maybe listening to this randomly and we haven't really worked together before, just a quick summary of where you can find me and kind of get in touch. The main website is www.transformationstm.com, and it's TRANCE as in hypnotic trance, because I'm a hypnotherapist, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONSTM, and the email is Marilyn, MARILYN @transformationstm.com. Pretty much on all of my social media except for Instagram, it's / Marilyn Devonish, and Devonish is DEV for Victor, ONISH. And on NeuroSuccess, it's the on NeuroSuccess. On Instagram, it's the NeuroSuccess Coach. So that's how to keep in touch. Feel free to kind of, like and share stuff on social media. If you are open to sharing about some of the experiences that you've had on this program, that's always fantastic too, because it's really nice for other people to get an experience for someone other than me saying, oh yeah, that was great today. So feel free to share if you're not a sharer, but if you're already a sharer on social media, then feel free to do that. Annika, you are most welcome. Susan says, awesome. Thank you again, Marilyn. You're welcome. Pippa says, sleep well, everyone, and see you for the last part of this fabulous course. And Dave says, thank you. You are most welcome. Now, in terms of next steps, next couple of weeks, let's see, I know I've got a few things, but if you have your diaries handy, because I think that has been a far easier way to do it than emailing everyone and going, when are you free? I would say let's have a look, see, and you might want to have a little bit of breathing space between this, and so I would say maybe, possibly something like 27th of September. If we want to do a Friday, that seems to be a day that is quite sort of popular with people around this time. And thank you, Pippa, for always being so accommodating, given that you're out in Australia. So it might be something like Friday the 27th of September, maybe Friday the 4th of October, could even be the 11th, but let me know if any of those dates resonate. Drop it into the chat, and if there's one that kind of sounds like a good idea, that would be cool. We can put that in. So, but you might just want a little bit of incubation time and kind of settling in time. And we will see where we go and if we can put one of those in the diary, and then we will bring this. So Susan, 4th, okay for me. Wait and see what the group goes with. 4th is good, and following week, but I could also make the 27th work, so I can missed the last few bits, but reckon it was awesome. You're cool, and it's all good. It's all good. So let's see, let's go. So that you're not having to change stuff, for me, any will work, but can I suggest we might go with close to a full moon as possible? That might be a little bit tricky. Now that's the 27th, but that means we then have to make Susan be arranging things, so that might not be ideal because the next one is on the 28th. But if we're good with the 4th, who's ever heard of the 40th of the month? But if we're good with, let's say, the 4th of October, let's see. Da, da, da. So Susan says, not a problem to switch up, and now Pippa's straight in, go, let's do it. Okay, so if we're good for the 20th, so that will be Friday the 27th of September. Oh, 4th, you mean the 4th? Okay, cool, fab. So I'm good. So okay, so Winnie, now you've seen how it's shaping up. 27th or 4th, is there any one of those that would cause you a challenge? 4th is good, following week, so just let me see, both are okay. 4th, Dave, let me know if you want to join us live and if there's anything there that would be, if there's either one of those two. Both are okay. Right, so today, so what are we today? We're the 6th. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, cool. Well, I would say then, I think the 27th could work in that case. So how about then Friday the 27th. And what I might do, because there are several people who aren't here, might be in the Philippines. Look at you. Cool. All right, so in that case, and it sounds like the 27th might be the most conducive one. And are we good with the 8:30 p.m. again? That's what I'm going to put in my diary for now. Cool. And I will email out, probably if not tomorrow or Monday. And I will always also say to the people that weren't here, we're going to do the 27th. The 4th is a possibility, but we're pretty much going with that. Cool. Fabulous. Well, thank you all for joining me. That is gorgeous. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time. We're going to do some kind of soul realigning and just working to get all of this stuff and I just say, notice what you notice. So thank you all. Catch you all later. Have a wonderful weekend, and rest of month. And I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye. Winnie, you're most welcome. Winnie says, thank you for a wonderful clearing. And she says, good night all. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Fab, Anne, you're most welcome. Cool. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And let's stop that recording just to make sure we've got that done. Perfect. Brilliant. Dave says, sleep well, everyone. Bye.